people to take a breath and to consider where that breath might have come from. And it's amazing how many people reply with the forest, which highlights to me just how out of sight and out of mind the topic of the oceans really are. Approximately 70% of the air that we breathe comes from the blue heart. It comes from the photosynthesis that happens on the surface of the water. It's estimated that about 98% of the water, the global fresh water that we rely on, comes from ocean precipitation. And this fresh water supply has to be delivered at just the right time of year, in just the right place, in just the right quantities to sustain all life on Earth. The ocean is the home to the most rich and diverse web of life, the greatest diversity of life, in every colour and every shape that you could possibly dream. The ocean drives global weather systems, it regulates temperatures, and it absorbs around 70% of the heat that we generate through the burning of fossil fuels. About a quarter of the world's population rely on the ocean for their main source of protein. And these people are people that are living on the edge, predominantly living on the edge. They're living on the edge of the oceans, but they're also living on the edge of life, and they don't have the choice in the source of food as we do. The deep blue supports all life on Earth, and therefore a healthy ocean is essential for our health and the health of future generations. So really, we can consider, all of us can consider ourselves as being sea creatures. It's incredible to think that nearly all our scientific understanding of the sea has come in my lifetime. In my grandparents' lifetime, people used to think the sea was an endless supply of resources that man could never really affect. It's also been really shocking for me to learn recently, and maybe naively so, that we have third generation families living on a kind of small island that have never seen the sea. For these people and for many others, the sea remains very absent from thinking. We cannot see the destruction in the ocean. However, scientific understanding and discoveries, and through rigorous science, it's clearly taught us that our lifestyle choices are devastating the marine environment. And there's no question about it. Rigorous science proves that we're in the midst of an ocean crisis. The health of our future generations is dependent on the health of the ocean, yet the deep blue is suffering. And it's suffering from our take-take relationship, which is damaging the ocean so very quickly, it's difficult for any of us to comprehend. And I've spent most of my life working in the middle of the ocean, and I can't comprehend it. So I don't know how people that have never seen it could even begin to understand how our lifestyles are affecting the ocean. To put it really, really simply, we're taking too much out of the sea and we're putting too much into the sea. Ever-increasing levels of CO2 in the atmosphere are suffocating our oceans, and we're getting dangerously close to the sea reaching its capacity to act as the planet's largest carbon sink. As Rupert will tell us, overfishing has resulted in the demise of 90% of the big fish stocks, and we're eating our way to extinction. We're eating more fish than the ocean can produce. Over half of the world's coral reefs have died, or they're in serious decline due to ocean acidification. And ocean acidification also affects and damages the phytoplankton, which creates the air that we breathe. So therefore ocean acidification is affecting the marine biodiversity in which we actually depend upon. And as we can all picture, everything rolls downhill. So the ocean forms our global dustbin. Each year we're pumping billions and billions and billions and billions and billions and even more billions of plastic pollution into the ocean. And it's kind of interesting to think that this material, this plastic material that was hardly used, say, in my grandparents' time, is going to form our geological legacy. Our toxic addiction to consuming plastic is actually creating a synthetic sea, and I've studied this extensively when we realised and designed and researched the Plastiki project, which was a raft that we built from recycled materials and sailed it across the Pacific. What we learned is that not only, as you can imagine, a plastic vessel forms a plastic object in the ocean forms a perfect vessel for invasive species to hitch a lift and travel around the seas. But the other aspect of it, which is probably even closer to our hearts, is the fact that plastic would never biodegrade. So it photodegrades. So it drifts around the ocean and the sun beats down on it and beats down on it, and slowly it breaks up into all these smaller particles, which obviously spread wider. These small particles act as a sponge for persistent organic pollutants, which simply put means that they're acting as a sponge to soak up any toxins in the ocean. So they're accumulating toxicity. These toxins quite simply come from things like insecticides and pesticides. So it's all stuff that we can really visually see how it ends up in the oceans. So you've got these small little particles drifting around the sea, and we've probably all heard of the garbage patches. There's these vortex, great islands of plastic they've been given us to give us this image of the plastic in the sea. The filter feeders come along at the bottom of the food chain and they ingest these lovely colourful particles of plastic, or even plastic that we can't actually see because it's broken down so much. And they ingest this toxicity. And it doesn't take much of an imagination to see how this toxicity works up to the top of our food chain, to things like the swordfish, which end up on our dinner plates. And there's a scientist who's famed for discovering the gyres, called Captain Charles Moore, and he published a report that said 1 in 3 male swordfish are producing female eggs. Wait a second, this is something that we're eating and it's having a sex change. So then scientists looked into, okay, so if the male swordfish are having a sex change, are the human males having a sex change, or are the human females having a sex change because of the plastic in our ocean? And surely enough, the science has proven that this toxicity in marine life is having an effect on infertility problems and cancers in our food chain. And you may think, oh, I don't consume much fish, but just go back to those people that are living on the edge who do consume fish every day and rely on fish as their main source of protein. So imagine closing your eyes and naturally picturing a grey ocean of floating plastic and jellyfish. No, this isn't going to happen. But today, well, it might do. Today we're living at the time of the greatest extinction since man stepped foot on this planet. Yet I know that if we combine all our energies, then we're not going to go down as the only single species to ever cause a mass extinction. Research shows that it's not too late at all to reverse the marine biodiversity loss which our lives depend upon. But we are definitely, clearly hanging in a very fine balance. And the actions we take in the next 10 years will shape the future of the planet, and far more importantly, will shape the future of the quality of life of future generations. And this is why I was totally amazed to learn that young people can go through our education system without studying ocean-related topics at all. And I visit lots of schools and give lots of talks about the sea and about adventuring across oceans and marine science. In fact, only today I was in front of 200 sixth form boys at a very prestigious London school. In fact, they're all saying how many are going to Oxford and Cambridge and going to Harvard. And I was talking about the ocean with them, and we talked very openly about, okay, so what is our connection to the sea? What is our scientific connection? What's our spiritual connection? And these guys, and I asked them, when was the last time that you covered an ocean-related topic in a class that you were in? And they could not remember. So they couldn't remember a time when their class had focused on the system that is running around 72% of our planet. All of us have the same percentage of salt in our blood that is in the ocean. There's science, and I know Rupert's going to go into touch on this, that the human brain has, that we come from the sea, the science saying that we come from the sea. The human brain has developed and evolved through experiences in nature and therefore the ocean. We offer up our dreams and our secrets and our treasures to the sea. And when we close our eyes, many of us feel peace. And when we close our eyes and think of the sea, many of us feel peace. Experiencing the sea can make us feel happy. It can give us a sense of clarity, perspective, creative insight, meaning and purpose. I realise that the government are working to give more freedom to teachers through prescribing less topics in the national curriculum. And this is wonderful for many of the privileged schools, and especially for privileged schools by the ocean. But I do feel it's slightly contradicted by the introduction of the EBAC, which, to put very simply, is a test that covers prescribed topics, the results of which are the basis for schools' league tables, measuring a school's success. At the end of the day, stressed inner city schools, or even stressed inner land schools, are going to focus on these topics that are prescribed. And currently exams and teaching aids and case studies are all focused on terrestrial environments and not on the marine environment. So if I was to be offered a wish or a dream, then I would ask for every young person to spend at least 3 or 4 days by or on the ocean in each academic year. But until the genie appears with that lamp or the Buddha bears his belly, I think that we should really come together and use our energy to make sure that through the national curriculum reform, young people are covering the oceans in their secondary school, especially up to leaving school. At a time when we know that the balance of the health of our planet lies in such balance, we have a huge responsibility in our role to act as caretakers for the planet and to ensure that our future generations have the same wonderful experiences in the natural world as we have had. We need to equip our children with the knowledge required to realise the solutions that are necessary to safeguard the health of the planet for future generations. So tonight I'd like to ask you if we could put all our collective energy into signing a petition that we've created that will ask the government to consider this, this being the topic of the oceans in the national curriculum at the end of the night. And if you would like to sign the petition, then please come and see me, or Jamie is sat here.